I'm going to talk about an episode in the middle of Oedipus Rex, and I want you to take away this: that humans have not changed. We have the same problems and feelings that people 2,500 years ago imagined and felt. This play by Sophocles can be just as relatable as the memes you see when you refresh your Instagram page. We already know the Oedipus myth when we sit down and watch the play and the chorus speaks, the community speaks. It is centered around this dramatic irony of us, the audience, knowing more than the characters, and this mystery unfolding as Oedipus realizes that is true. So a quick summary. The land of Thebes was in trouble again, and Oedipus the king was there to save it. He thought that finding the murderer of the late king Lais would do just that. Then when a seer, Tiresias, didn't want to tell Oedipus what actually happened, who the real murderer was, Oedipus got really mad when it turns out that Oedipus himself was the murderer. But that can't be true. He accuses Creon of conspiring with Tiresias, and he gains the chorus's loyalty, and Jocasta, his wife, tries to defuse the situation. And that brings us to the episode we'll be examining today. Oedipus begins by using his detective skills to find something that he doesn't really know what he's looking for. He doesn't know what the truth is. And it's in this episode that Oedipus, with Jocasta's answers about the context of Laius' murder, that he pieces together that Tiresias was right. Oedipus himself is the murderer. Oedipus connects the 3 roads that Laius was murdered at to the 3 roads that he got really mad at some guy and got all this road rage at. And he realizes those were the same 3 roads. And at this point he gains a moment of insight and says, "O Zeus, what hast thou willed to do with me?" But he doesn't stop there. Oedipus doesn't refuse to discover the truth. No, he keeps going. He might be angry at first with Tiresias and Creon, but with calmness and logic, then begins to address this situation with Jocasta and continues questioning to find out if his fears, if his worst nightmare, actually has come true. Meanwhile, during this entire conversation with Jocasta, she acts as this maternal figure, sort of chiding him, telling him not to worry, everything will be okay, prophecies aren't right anyway. But this is the ancient Greek world, and the fates know where you live. So why do we care? Why do we even care about any of this? This is about ancient Greece, this is about mythology, sphinxes aren't real, why bother? Why do we care about this prophecy that has come true? This is all just fictional stuff that some guy, Sophocles, wrote 2,500 years ago. So how does it actually apply to us in this present day? Well, it's because people just don't change. As humans, our problems, our reactions, and our conflicts arising, and us dealing with them in our personal ways. Specifics have changed over time, like the language we speak and the clothes we wear, but the need to react to a situation and the emotions we go through are no different than from Sophocles' time. We still feel anger, sadness, happiness, and so on. These things continue to be relevant to society, even without the worry of Zeus adulterating your spouse. We can learn from Oedipus. The further he got in this questioning, trying to figure out who the murderer was, the more he began to realize that he didn't want the answer. He knew it. He knew that it was the worst nightmare, the worst thing, that thing he was trying to avoid. And he ended up walking right into it. In trying to avoid the prophecy, he made it come true, but he still pressed on. In this episode, his questions are purposeful. They each go through logic, and he takes in every detail, like a far more recent character by a far more recent author. Instead of letting pride and anger, that fatal flaw of hubris that Oedipus and many of us have within ourselves, take over, we can make that conscious effort towards logic and reason. We can take that model, and in our own lives, become better people with it. I'll tell you a story where I didn't want to accept the truth. I organized a library a few months ago, separating the especially rare books and old books from the books that we were donating. We had a book fair inviting the public to visit the library and take any book on the shelf for free. But I wasn't there. I, the person who knows the library best and knows the layout, was organizing it, forgot to lock the door of the special collections room, the books we weren't giving away. I had been blind. I hadn't checked the door before I left. Did I really screw up so badly for the rarest and most historically valuable books to be gone forever? I didn't want to know the truth, that I had screwed up so badly. But I asked the host of the book fair what happened, and I connected the dots, and the door was left open. and I lost books that were over 100 years old and signed by the very guy the library was named after. This was a truth that I didn't want to accept, just like Oedipus didn't want to accept the truth that he was the murderer of his own father. In this scene, Oedipus could have easily overlooked all of these details and wanted to stay exactly where he was. He could have stayed nice and comfortable as the king of Thebes. And who wouldn't want to be? You get all these riches, the land is great, yet great stuff going on. But instead, he chose to keep his word to his subjects, that he would find the murderer, even if that murderer was himself. And when he begins to realize that the guy he got so angry at, Tiresias, was right, he still continues to humble himself and accept that he himself, Oedipus, was wrong, and that the prophecy did come true. I'm going to ask you to think, to relate to this on a more personal level. Have you ever just kept asking questions that you knew you didn't want to know the answer to, but you felt obligated to learn, to know more? You felt obligated to know the whole story, even if you knew you just didn't want to. Have you ever tried to figure something out and been so stressed about it, but it needs to be resolved, so you have to do it, but the entire time your person, whether it be your best friend or your family member, keeps telling you, oh, don't worry, it's gonna be okay. But you know you need to address the situation. It's not going to be okay unless you take the time to stress out about it. Or finally, have you ever just become so angry at the world that your worst nightmare came true and you didn't even see it happen? So I'll leave you to sit with these questions, and I bid you adieu. Okay. Adults and these lion, woman, eagle, serpent, people things, sphinxes.